Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Silvates podcast. This podcast is going to be very special for a very number of reasons. Firstly, I have very close and dear friends joining me, and I have more than one friend, just so you clocked on the plural there. But also, you might feel that the conversation is slightly disjointed. And that's because I actually recorded two separate conversations. And I'm not that good at editing, so you will hear a little bit of a difference. But I'm hoping the conversation will flow, and I'm hoping that it'll facilitate more discussion afterwards. So sit back, and I hope you enjoy this. And we're going to be talking about sports in the LGBTQ community. So to introduce them, I have Olivier Floch, I have
Hi,
Gianpaolo
Sylvain.
Jardim, also known as Johnny because I mess up his name every time I say it. We also have Kevin Ha and Eugene Fisher. So to give you context of how we all know each other, so we all play or played volleyball at one point or another with the London Spikers. And I wonder, Johnny, if you're able just to give us just like a brief overview of who the Spikers are for anyone who hasn't come across them.
London Spikers is a LGBT male volleyball team or club, should I say. I think it was founded in 1995, so almost 30 years now. And yeah, so I think has 200 plus members, London-based, obviously, and even though it's a predominantly gay male club, obviously we welcome any sort of LGBT part of the community as well as allies. So it's not just specific for gay men, but I think the club tries to create a safe space for gay men or LGBT people to enjoy sports, enjoy volleyball, make friendships, and so on.
And I think that's one of the really special things that they're able to do as a community. And you hit the nail on the head there, is create this safe space for gay men specifically as well to play volleyball in a very non-judgmental sort of space. Was that something that you were looking for when you were looking to sort of get involved with the Spikers, Johnny?
Yes, I think I went in more in the fact of I think for me it was mostly to do some sort of sport. I didn't envision to enter the club and make the friendships that I did. So that was a really nice plus. I expect to meet new nice people, but I didn't expect to make the friendships that I did. But it was mainly to do some sport, especially because I'm not a sporty person whatsoever. I never did well in sports. So yeah, I thought volleyball was the sport that I probably did the least terribly at school. So yeah, so I think that was the reason why I went in to Spikers, mainly for the sports side of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder, Olivier, for you then, what was your relationship with sports growing up?
So funny, I think it's going to be another shared experience that I have with Johnny, which is I wasn't good at sport at all. I think that was the thing that I probably hated the most of high school. And I think I wanted to kind of turn this experience on its head and in my adult life have something have a skill in a certain sport, because I was an unhappy teenager in this field. So I think similarly to what Johnny was saying, like the sport element was very important to me. But also, I think I went into the club because I wanted to make, I think, connection with people who had the same experience, and I really believed that I could be. I mean, when you live in London, it's quite a tough city. It's quite tough to form relationships, and I don't know. I made a bet that I could form relationships in this kind of context where, as you say, it's a safe space. And yeah, I think that played its role quite well in that sense.
Eugene?
I actually didn't play sports too much growing up. I played a bit of soccer in elementary school. So till I was around, I don't know, I think that's like 9 or 10. But then I really stopped playing sports in junior high. Didn't play in junior high, didn't play in high school or in college at all, just because I wasn't really that big of a sporty type person. It wasn't until, later in my 20s when I started to play sports more recreationally. Because I guess, in school, it's a bit more, kind of competitive gaming. And I was just really more interested in the social aspect of sports.
Okay. And you grew up in Minnesota, so a very different sort of schooling and scholastic experience than maybe we'd experience here in the UK.
Yeah, I'd say relative. I mean, it is a bit different, but I think like a lot of the similarities around, we had PE, and so you had to play, some level of sports there. And there were the extracurricular sports, but the biggest ones were primarily basketball and football, American football. And definitely a lot of like culture around, American high school sports.
But Kevin, you grew up in Australia. What was it like growing up as a child? What was your relationship with sports?
I wasn't naturally very good at sport growing up, so and my parents didn't really invest in sport in me. So for me, it was only through participation at school, through team sports there. I think so. Growing up in Australia, the big sports were cricket in the summer, and then football in the winter. And because I wasn't very sporty at either of those, I never tried out for those teams. So naturally, if you look at other sports offered in those seasons, so for example, hockey was offered in the summer, all the lesser sporty types would try out for those. And I managed to get into that team only probably by default, to play hockey for a couple of years at school. Never really that good. Played against, a couple of schools around the district, and that was it. And then I came about, probably by early junior high, I was very interested in tennis, just because my siblings used to watch it on TV. So I was requesting my parents, can I please go and get some coaching for tennis? So I did that. And then through the rest of high school up into university, I played tennis a bit more, both recreationally and a bit of competition. In uni, I joined the squash club as well, so I did a bit more individual, no more team sports kind of thing, so that I didn't have to compare myself with other boys. And that was it really. And then as an adult, just sport was more of a individual kind of thing, gym, tennis, all that kind of stuff. And then coming out as gay, moving to London. So I thought, I didn't know if any kind of team sports existed for, gay men. And then after doing some research, I found out that there was, and had some friends that actually were in other gay sporting teams, which was quite good to see. And I thought, okay, maybe in this environment it'd be more comfortable, and hence why, probably lead on to another question for yours, but that's why we joined the Spikers volleyball team, having close to zero experience in it.
That's really interesting, because it sounds like we all share that common sort of thread where sports wasn't a huge deal growing up, but for some way or another, we all sort of gravitated towards that maybe later on in our adulthood. I'm not going to say how old we are, but let's not go there.
I think similar to what you're saying, Julia, I agree with saying that, yes, I went in for sports, but I think there's something to be said about learning a new skill as adults, which type of skills you're predominantly learning when you're a child. And I saw something very funny on social media today saying that we need to remove the stigma of adults learning new instruments, like, taking a piano when you're 40 or so on.
That is so
that doesn't
true.
do, but it's similar to a sport. Like you don't pick up a sport age, outside of school, essentially. It's very unlikely. And I felt like going to a gay club, never played volleyball before, well, not well enough anyway, and start from the very beginning. There'll be other people the same level as me, and being a gay club, I think, gave me the extra security net, I think, to be able to go in a bit less self-conscious of my ability to play.
I totally agree. It was such a rewarding experience. I'm going to say like so late in life. I mean, it's going to make us sound really old, but yeah, it was. There was a huge reward in doing so.
Yeah, and a shared experience that we were all the same as well. So I think that was pretty great.
Another shared experience. We were rubbish.
Some of us are still rubbish.
I think most of us still are, to be fair. But yeah,
no, I stepped away from injury, so I didn't progress to the level that you're at. Having been at the club now and played in a sports league, and having your intentions met early on, has anything changed for you now that you've been playing for a while?
Yes, I think, as I said, I think I went in wanting to develop a new skill, play a bit of sport, and then what definitely evolved is that's still a pretty core thing to me in terms of why I'm in the club still. I love playing, I enjoy it, but it's that I think the people that we meet and that we share, it's twice a week that we interact. I see those guys more than I see a lot of my other friends outside of the club. So it's a very strong sense of community. And I think if I was to leave him, I would really miss that part of it in terms of, yes, I can do it like without playing volleyball for whatever reason, but I will miss the camaraderie that brings us together and, the routine that kind of develops. And yeah, so I think the reason for joining the reason for staying, I think, is the people, and on top of obviously playing. Together with that comes there's loads of tournaments around Europe that we go to as a group, so it becomes a bit of a holiday with your mates and stuff like that. We play a bit of volleyball and it was fun and stuff, but for me personally, it's that element of it that kind of keeps me in the club, I think.
And I see you nodding along, Kevin. How did you find the Spikers?
So I joined my partner James onto London Spikers a couple of years ago now. I guess I only played sport casually, like just every now and then before them, but really kind of we both wanted to do something. And we were just away in Paris for a weekend once, and it so happened to be the gay games. So we managed to join all the parties, but not actually do any of the sport, which is great.
That's the idea.
Ran into an acquaintance there at one of the parties who I knew from London, and he was in the, I think it was the Royals, which is the gay hockey team in London. And then just looking at how much fun he had and the fact that he felt a bit more comfortable. I want to say he didn't look the most naturally sporty type, but none of us are really. So I thought, okay, if they can do it, so can we. And then it was a process of elimination of what type of team sports we could actually do, because football, like I said, was just a no. Rugby, no. Just so many no's. And then it was like, volleyball, okay, maybe level playing field for both of us. Not really. We both have played casually once or twice growing up at school, but never anything else. So I thought, okay, let's try this one. And that's how we joined the London Spikers team.
And was it important for you to be able to do that together?
Yeah, I think so, because we joined maybe a year into our relationship, this London Spikers team, so it was good to just do something together.
Yeah. And I will preface by saying this, like, we all know each other because we all played in the same team at one point. And some of us have gotten better or worse, or left. So I will say that, that was sort of the common thread for all of us. Eugene, for you, so, you coming from America, I know you were working in London at the time. Where did the Spikers fit into everything that was going on for you?
Well, first, I'm going to pick up on the fact that you said better, worse, or left. So Kevin got better, you left, which by process of deduction, it says that I got worse, which whatever, but just want to highlight that. Keep that in the edit, please. So, when I moved over to the UK, I lived here for a few years before I joined the Spikers. It just seemed like a really great fit because there were teams of a lot of different levels. It turns out I actually knew someone that was already in the team who was able to kind of vouch for, how it was structured, and how everyone was really welcome. And so it was a really easy decision. I would actually remember, the day before the first practice, I was actually kind of on the fence about, do I want to do it or do I not? Feeling a bit intimidated because I hadn't been doing, team sports for so long. And I'm so thrilled that I did, because it really was a very, very social experience. It is a sport, but no one really cares how well you do or don't do. It's really just that you're there having a good time with, a shared affinity group. So I'm so thrilled that I did, because just imagining what if I didn't have like the volleyball community, just how different things would be. So yeah, I'm so thrilled that I did, and I'm so thrilled that I actually knew someone that was already in it who kind of pushed me to join, because it truly was. The perception of it being intimidating was not the case at all, and it was abundantly clear that it was not intimidating the first day that we got there.
What was your first day like?
Well, you remember, don't you? I think it was a bit, I'm social with people that I know, but I'm not very outgoing with people that I don't know. And so I was a bit nervous going to, a big group room with, 25 other people that were also doing this for the first time. And so it was a bit intimidating. I also didn't really know what to expect. But it came clear really early on that everyone was there to have a good time. And there were plenty of, by doing like kind of smaller pair activities, it was a really great way to actually start to meet other people in the team, which I think is really good for people who might not be as social, because you are put into those, you just have to talk to someone if you're, a pair running around after a ball. So I remember being intimidated and nervous, but I remember getting over it very, very quickly, very quickly.
Yeah. And I guess for you, Olivier, because we left the club around similar times, what was that like for you then? Sort of, you started in this team, you started with this group of people who, we bonded very quickly with. What was it like then leaving that?
It was a very sad thing. I'm still grieving a little bit. I mean, it's been years now, and there's been COVID, so it's like, yeah, at least they're not playing. But yeah, honestly, I've gone through, like the stages of grief. I was like, oh no, I can't have that, but I'm so angry, and then that was really sad. So it was a very important part of my life. I think there was an element to add to what Johnny was saying, which was every week being able to kind of see the people. So it's all about, at the end of the day, the people that I met, and not being able to see them regularly, going every Tuesday and every Sunday, was a very tough experience. Now I'm over it, but it was a very sad times when both you and me, had an injury and we couldn't continue. So yeah, I think it's a testament of like how good it was, of an experience, and it's you grieve people in relationships. That's what I was sad about.
And that's so touching, because I think for me, for a long time, I was worried about not being able to maintain those friendships, because part of becoming friends is
trying to get rid of you, but you latched on to us. So yeah,
I am a little koala bear, and I'm not letting go. But you do, like, the reason why it's so easy to make friends in school is because you see people all the time at university. And so in a similar way, we saw each other twice a week for 4 hours, 5 hours at a time. And so leaving that, I was I'd say very insecure and very worried about not being able to maintain those friendships or maintain those connections. And what's been really lovely is the group that we have formed. We call ourselves the Michelles, but that's for a different podcast. We've been able to maintain that through COVID, through not playing volleyball twice a week, just as much as the guys who have continued to play together.
Totally. I mean, it's I think it shows how the bonds were strong, because despite it was like a year, I think it was the combination of a shared experience, being rubbish, at the beginning, learning a skill together and spending so much time together on a regular basis every week, kind of like, I think provided this basis for continuing to see each other. And I have FOMO like every week, but I think, I probably do
maybe not
volleyball.
Sunday morning, not mid from Sunday morning, maybe no FOMO then.
Yeah,
but...
this one I don't really have FOMO anymore. But it's, I mean, it still proves that we could continue the friendships despite that. So
yeah. And I wonder, Johnny, then, because you talked about sort of like looking for spikers, was finding an LGBTQ sort of type of sport important to you?
Yes. Yeah. I think obviously I'm from Brazil, where football is massive, but the second most popular sport there is probably volleyball as well. So it is very, very big, but it does feel a lot less, let's say, suffer from a lot less toxic masculinity than some like football or basketball do. So I think that was really important. One, this sport didn't require a massive amount of butterness, but also I think that and being an LGBT club, I think definitely was important. I wouldn't, especially then, maybe if I was to leave club for whatever reason and join a different club, not that I'm anywhere like an amazing player, but I feel a bit more comfortable to go into a new club with, let's say, a not necessarily LGBT club, a mixed club or whatever. I would be a bit more comfortable because I kind of know what I'm doing. So that's, well, should I say that? I think so. But I think definitely in the beginning it was very, very, very important. But then again, you join. If I was to do that, it was purely because of my love for volleyball rather than, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But I'll feel like if I was to change clubs, it'd probably be more because I miss playing volleyball. Whilst on the club they're in, it does feel like the people just really driving it, and that's it. We don't have a massive turnover of players. Usually people leave for injuries or they're moving country or for whatever reasons.
Still a massive turnover of people.
Yeah,
because the massive amount of injuries. But
it is hard to. I mean, very few people that I know of have left because had enough. Of course, there are other personal reasons why, but you see the same people year in, year out staying in the club, and I think that part is really kind of important. But yeah, being an LGBT club was definitely important for me.
So for you, Eugene, you mentioned that you played more socially in your 20s, and was it a conscious decision, or was there any type of barrier into playing with others in terms of whether it was with people from like an LGBT sort of community or not?
I think that I was most interested in playing in co-ed leagues, just because I think it's more interested in the social, so it doesn't matter if friends with a guy or a girl. And then I think there's also, when it's co-ed, it's just, my perspective was that it was likely going to be less competitive and more focused on the fun side of things. And so that's why I was drawn to co-ed sports. I don't think I would have joined a non-LGBT same-sex sporting team, just because of the perceived kind of, very competitive nature. But that said, I'd say even within, spikers, there are, obviously competitive, like very competitive teams. And I'm just not really interested in that because I just want to do the social side. And so I guess my focus has been less on the LGBT or non. It's just in what sport, what feels the most social. And for me, like, it felt like a co-ed sport or a very non-competitive LGBT sport was the best fit. for what I was looking to get out of the sporting experience.
Yeah. And it sounds like for you, Kevin, because of, where you were at the gay games and you had this person that common contact, were you looking for a sort of, I always get the acronym wrong. And I'm so thankful that Eugene has said it a couple of times very clearly, because I clearly do not. Were you looking for a LGBT? Oh, God. Eugene, handle that for me.
LGBTQ.
Thank you.
LGBTQIA plus.
There you go. Were you looking for that type of sporting club specifically?
Yeah, I think we were. Well, we were, because I wanted to play in a field that was just with gay people, essentially, bluntly speaking. I didn't want to play in a team sport, even though I'm new to the sport, where you're playing with, straights who are more perceived to be potentially more aggressive or, arrogant. I didn't want to deal with that. So we chose a gay sport, a gay team for that reason. And then choosing volleyball at the beginner level was probably the best decision for us, because rather than doing a sport that we had both done a little bit of, because it meant that everyone, what I didn't realize when you joined the club, when it comes to the beginners, literally everyone around you is new to the club, new to the sport. So you feel like that whole barrier of, oh, am I going to be intimidated by these people? Group of walking in a room of 25 people, like what Eugene said, that quickly went straight away, because you realize everyone's in the same shoes as you. So that was good. And then I think as you get a lot, progress in the club, you start to realize that I would compare, like, say if I was in a, mixed, straight, co-ed kind of sport, or whatever team it is, there's sometimes a hierarchy in a way where the better people will clap back at you and like tell you you did something crap, or you made the wrong move, or you should have done this way or that way. That does still happen in the Spikers, but because we're dealing with gay men, you can clap back in the sassiest way and it's fine. So I like that. I don't feel like I'm intimidated if a straight man told me that I was crap. It's not like that.
And do you think, Olivier, had you joined a club that was not LGBT sort of orientated, would that have given you a different experience, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I would have joined a non-LGBT club. I did it with intention. So I think when I joined, I was sort of like 5 years. I had been living 5 years in London already. I've been now 10 years in London. I came from Paris, and it was a time of my life where, I had some friendships kind of like break up. It was not necessarily a time in my life where I felt like I had a lot of friends around me, and I thought I need to be in this safe space. I want to make connection with people who share the same experience. And I selected specifically an LGBT group club. So I volunteer in a charity which is Switchboard, so the LGBTQ plus helpline. And a lot of the time, I mean, I can't disclose, the calls in there, but a lot of people actually feel isolated, and for very different reasons. Sometimes it's geographical. People live in smaller towns that don't have access to, huge social networks. And I mean, it's not that I tell them, but usually we invite them to consider doing things with people. And I think a social club, like a sports club like that, is a good way to kind of start relationship, because sports is it's a very good excuse to connect with others. And I don't know what's the outcome of these conversations, because they're anonymous and everything, but I found that when I open this door to people by saying, oh, what about an an LGBT sports group. Do you do any sports yourself? And usually people are a bit like provoked by this question in a positive way. They say, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. It's actually a good idea, because they would feel, you know, a bit too shy to kind of go into a gay bar, but going to potentially a gay club where you're gonna you're gonna do something together, and you form relationships this way with like a sort of more natural pace, it is usually quite powerful.
And there are quite a few around London. I think we got to meet a lot of all the LGBT plus sport clubs in London. We have like, I think in the past we've actually done a lot more partnerships with them. In terms of, again, just to get to know them. Like the rugby team came once to our parties, the rowing team did it once as well. There's a lot out there as well. Which I'm sure will be just as welcoming and create a community as much as the London Spikers do. There's quite a lot out there, and I think I agree with you, Olivia. I came across the club because a female friend of mine was playing volleyball, and she said, "Oh, you know, JP, I found this, you know, LGBT club for you to join." That was years ago, way before I joined. I said, "Okay," so I saved the address, but kind of like I left it, kind of thing. But there are quite a few out there, and I was like, "Oh, never thought about joining a volleyball club, or, you know, especially being a gay club." And yeah, it was, I can see why people, when you're you mentioned that too, be like, oh, never thought about that, because gay and sport do not go together for majority of people. So
stereotypes, Johnny. We are very sporty. See, in our 30s, we just got sporty.
I know, exactly. The only sport in my life was now C. But I can see why people would have considered that necessarily.
Yeah, and I love what you said, Kevin, earlier, where, you know, that competitiveness isn't exclusively just for heterosexual men, because gay men can be just as competitive or say, hey, you did this wrong. But I love that you can come back in a very sassy kind of way, and it diffuses the situation entirely.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I feel that way even after a couple of years in the club.
I'd also say, though, I think it goes like, just because, you know, I wasn't looking for something that was very, you know, that wasn't very ultra, you know, competitive or whatnot. And I think it's the same thing, like, you know, it's the LGBT community. It's not like a homogenous community. And so there are some people that are really interested in a bit more of an aggressive and competitive team. And what's really great about the Spikers is that it accommodates for that, because the more senior level teams, they are much more competitive and aggressive. And I think on most teams, there are going to be a couple of guys who are a little bit more competitive and aggressive. And that's great, because there is, you know, all strokes, all folks. And so I think it's nice that the team really is quite accepting and comfortable. And I'd also say, even to the point where, while it is a gay league, there's several non-gay team members that play, right? And so I think it just shows how kind of welcoming the group is.
Definitely.
Yeah, I just say, like, I'm surprised at what I got out, because I was looking to meet, you know, people, and I couldn't have, you know, expected to. I would have been thrilled to know that I would have met, you know, a group of, you know, 6 or 7 that kind of formed in the first season, the first year, and are still, like, you know, a group of friends, like, still has an active WhatsApp group, still hangs out, still, you know, travels somewhere for the weekend. And so I think I'm quite happy with what I got out of it. It's more than I was expecting to get out of it. But I think, like, what you get out of it changes as time goes on, because the first year was to build relationships, and that then it's kind of, you know, maintaining those relationships as well. And I think that as, you know, people, you know, go up to other teams or stop playing, like, it's also an opportunity to meet other people that play and make additional friends in the group, which has also been good.
And so I'm wondering what you would say to people if they were like, I'm not athletic, I'm not thin enough. I'm not, I've never played any sports as a child. Like, how would you handle that type of sort of situation where somebody would ask you that? Because I imagine that that's something that comes up quite often for people considering joining this kind of club.
I mean,
neither Olivia nor I spoke, so we'll be able to speak from our own experience and reflect that. But I think also we had as an entry point coach for volleyball, we had a really good entry level coach in the sense that he was much more for creating a bond for us, and he did say a couple of times in terms of PE always a traumatic experience for gay men, and a lot of times this is the place where we can have a laugh, make mistakes together, blah blah blah, all the kind of stuff. So we can definitely speak from our experience. I'm not athletic whatsoever, and at the end of the 2-hour session of volleyball, I'm absolutely knackered. Most people are a bit better than me. I am absolutely out of it. So I think, speak from our experiences, that we can definitely say that you don't. And in the club, we have people from all shapes and sizes. Not only at the beginners level, we can see people of all different body shapes playing at the top of the league, perform amazingly well, being coaches, being assistants. There is absolutely, again, every sport is different, but volleyball for me seems like the type of sport that you are able to really develop a lot of skill regardless of your body structure.
And the coach that you're referring to, and I hope he's okay with me saying his name, is Sydney, and he is an amazing coach. And he does facilitate that bond as newcomers. That is really important. And I thoroughly enjoyed my time being coached by Sydney, to the point where I stayed in the same group for a couple of years.
I was there too, Silvan. Another shared experience between you and me.
Exactly. I didn't want to get better. That was just a natural.
You see, there's a perfect example of what the club like the Sparkers can do. Like, some of us got promoted, some of us didn't, but it's still that kind of friendliness and that kind of it's fine. I don't need to be the best. Obviously, if people are very talented, they progress and all the kind of stuff. Even within our little friendship group, we all get promoted at different times, and we don't play with each other all the time. So, but is that kind of exactly, you're just laughing about it because everybody's different, obviously, but for certain people, if it's not getting promoted, or you're not developing, you're not necessarily getting to the next level, you still have an amazing experience, getting to know new people, being part of the club, and
and that's a really good point. I suppose, Kevin, if the Spikers were, for whatever reason, taken away from you, do you think how much of an impact do you think that would have?
I think my answer is kind of this, same way that answer the question you had before. I think at the beginning, that would have a heavy impact because your whole objective is to meet new people. I think it's one of the best things anyone could do if you move to a new city and you're looking to find a group of gay friends with an activity that's outside of drinking or going to a club. This is a sport, so it's not only healthy, but it's just a bit more broader than what we can normally do. It's hugely beneficial because you can instantly get a group of friends like that are willing to go out, willing to explore the cities, willing to get to know each other, because you have that want built in. But if it was, now that I've been in the club a few years, if it was taken away from me, I would miss the volleyball activity because I think it's still quite fun to play it. I still like the sport. It's still interesting to me, but from a social perspective, maybe too harsh, but I don't think it will make a huge difference for me because all the friends that I made from the club I made early on and I've kept, and I want to keep that, and I will keep that irrespective if I leave or the club dissolves. I think that will stay the same. Maybe it's also because of age. I'm not that bothered about making new friends as much anymore.
He's popular.
She's not. She's just picky. But I think, yeah, I think it'd be hugely impactful in a negative way if the club dissolved and we had just joined.
Yeah. And I know for me, having left the club because of an injury, that's the part that I missed. I missed sort of seeing everyone twice a week, every week, and having that sort of common thread and just being around other people. And so I know there are other people who have left because of, injuries or whatever reason. So it'd be really interesting to get their take on it as well. But I'm wondering then, if you didn't do volleyball, would you have done something else, or would it have just been volleyball or nothing?
I'll answer that first. Yes, I would try to look for something else. But my process of elimination might be very, very limited, but definitely something else, whether it be sport or some sort of activity. It doesn't need to be that, but it's just a great way of meeting new people in the new city. And for at the time, it was just doing something outside of drinking with my partner. So it's good.
Yeah. And staying on that then, Kevin, volleyball being a team sport, had that changed sort of your perception of like how team sports and solo sports work, or how is that any different for you?
Hugely, I think. I think if I just compare it to tennis, if you're playing on the court, on the tennis court, it's just your mind, and you need the mental strength to like go through points, highs or lows, etc. With the team sport, having now we've participated poorly in some tournaments, but I reckon just because everyone's spirit, good nature, everyone's still quite uplifting, even though if we're losing, that makes it like easier to deal with the fact that you are losing, because I think deep down a lot of us have still got a little bit of competitiveness in us. So because we've got a team and we've got people that like won't drag the spirit down even though you're losing, that makes it easier to deal with. And I feel like in these team sports, win or lose, that is actually the difference, not about the skills.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that's important for you as well, Eugene?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, who doesn't like to win, and who enjoys, losing? But again, it's just like as long as you're having, a good time, I think that's most important. And I think the nice thing about losing, as if you're, losing it as a team, like there's a team of you rather than just one, you. And so I think it is, yeah. I find it, yeah, better to, to celebrate with multiple people or to commiserate with more people. But even when you lose, like the tournaments I've been in, we've all lost like last place, but it didn't matter because we were there just to have a good time, right? And you were with multiple people just in the same position.
Yeah. And I will say, having watched you at tournaments, you don't always lose. Can I just say, you do win as well. I think you're selling yourself short. When I play with you, we lose, but that was a very long time ago. And that was in Lisbon, so who cares?
I hope you don't have many Portuguese followers.
I mean, no, it wasn't Lisbon, it was us. But I mean, beach volleyball is my jam. Anytime you go back and do beach volleyball, I will follow you.
Don't forget the outfit.
The outfit was, oh, and people are listening to this. It's not that there was less clothes, there was more clothes because it was beach volleyball for me. So I don't want people thinking like
a generous sun hat.
There was a sun hat, it was full head to toe covering, I wasn't running around in a Speedo or anything like that. I just enjoyed the view. Are there any, I wonder, Olivier, are there any other sports that you would consider joining, given your experience with the Spikers?
I actually did another sport before and I enjoyed myself. So it was also in another LGBT club. It was the badminton Gosling club. I enjoyed that very much. That I had tennis elbow, which is very, very difficult to get rid of. That's why I joined volleyball. Then I hurt my knee anyway. But I found exactly the same spirit across the two groups. And I would really consider doing it again, because there is something really consistent, which we have been talking about for the last 10 minutes, which is, this sense of being in a safe space, not being judged, being like very, I don't know, very open. I think this shared experience we all have kind of make us very relaxed. I mean, in the volleyball club, there wasn't much, club politics, or there's a bit of gossiping or anything, but overall, it was a very nice environment. And I found that in the other club, and I'm sure I would find that in another one. So don't know which sport.
Maybe you should try gay chess next.
Yeah.
You can't get injured with that, please.
What else do
Carpal tunnel with chess.
Is that from chess?
I don't know. I think maybe a swimming club, because you're in water. So the worst that'll happen is you drown. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I want to see
there's quite an alternative to get your elbow injured.
Well, it's also a very different view. So there's an ulterior motive there. But I wonder.
Do some research.
Exactly. Field research. I wonder if there's anything you would change or like to see more of, or something different in sort of a sporting sort of environment for either gay men or an LGBT sort of community.
I can take this one. I think it's an LGBT club, but I think the foundation has been, probably made by gay males. And I think when you go on a Sunday where you see most of the crowd, it's mostly gay men. I wonder what, and I don't know, I remember my experience from the badminton club. I think there is always a tendency for, mostly gay men to join these clubs. I guess you probably have lesbian women clubs. I know they're sometimes smaller. But I wonder for like people of different gender, so who are transgender, non-binary, I haven't seen so many of them coming to these kind of clubs, and I don't know what we could do. Maybe I'm wrong. It's changing, but I think probably clubs should think of like, how could we reach out to this community so that they can, feel safe to join if this is something they want to do. So bringing a bit more diversity. I think there's a bit of thinking to do there.
Yeah, to be fair, we've had trans people join the club, but you're right, it's majority gay cis man, I suppose. We also have straight men, and the thing with, obviously I'm not the best person to speak about this, obviously, but in terms of volleyball, there's a difference between like the net height, for instance, for female volleyball and male volleyball. We as a club, we wouldn't discriminate anyone from joining, and I believe even women that they'll be fine for them to join. But there's certain elements of the game that is different between the female volleyball and male volleyball in terms of when you get to technicalities, essentially. Because the whole safe environment that an LGBT plus club can provide, we've had quite a few, handful of straight men join the club for the exact same reason that we joined. They're straight men, but potentially they're not the most athletic. They don't feel comfortable coming into a toxic masculinity kind of environment when it's the vibe is very different. They've joined the club and they love it, and they're just as part of our community as we are. They come to the parties, they travel to the tournaments together. There's but they get from the club exactly the same thing that we get in terms of a safe space, something that is we all feel like we can be ourselves in whichever capacity that may be. That happens not only for gay men or for LGBT people, but also straight people that feel that they they wouldn't be welcome in a super masculine, super sporty environment to take up a new skill. I know there was only a question that you asked, but
no, I love that. And it sort of comes back to, an environment where you feel comfortable in. And it's not to say that because, where the Spikers might be more sort of gay male members in it, that they're not as competitive or as ambitious. They are just as competitive, especially when you play at a league level. But there is that sense of, I'm with my people that I get when I played, and I can be my most authentic self. I don't have to put on this veneer.
So when you think about, potentially there are fewer, the club is predominantly gay men, cis gay men, but potentially, I know there is I think, lesbian volleyball club. I could be wrong, I'm not sure. But I think if I am a lesbian woman and I want to take up a new skill, let's say volleyball as an example, I would expect a entry-level female volleyball will see a lesbian woman join in with the same eyes as a predominantly straight man who look at a gay man coming in and learning a new skill, if that makes sense. I think we'll be seeing more and more environment will be a lot safer for a lesbian woman to join a predominantly straight.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that.
Women club than for one of us.
How was that?
No sport ability to join. Wait for the check. Straight man,
well,
which is
when I get one, you'll
issue,
go one.
But I think there'll be a lot. I would like to think there will be a lot more welcoming and
your
less.
podcast is great, Silvates.
Yeah, it'd be a safer space for them just as much, I would imagine.
Do you think there is a difference generationally now with younger people coming into sports than maybe we would have had, given that, we all come from different backgrounds, different countries? What are your thoughts on that?
I happen to work with kids and young people as part of my job, and I think there's definitely it still is, gay people in sports is still quite, especially gay men, it's quite still can be a nerve-wracking experience, but kids are able now. A lot more kids are able to come out and be their true selves at a much younger age. So they are able potentially to deal with those situations whilst still in school and be able to be comfortable in their own skin within their target audience, if you may, while still at school and so on. So potentially the sanctuary that a club like Spikers gave us, it's still important, I think, create friendships and stuff like that, but potentially, hopefully, I'd like to think that they wouldn't have to come in purely because they feel that any other club wouldn't welcome them the way the Spikers did. And I think we'll be seeing more and more of that, which is fantastic. Yeah,
I love that. Thank you for that. Are there any, and is there anything that you would change within sort of the sporting environment or the gay community sporting environment that you think would facilitate maybe more people joining or trying? Or
I think that it making it more known, because I still know quite a few people who aren't familiar with Spikers or the Royals or whatever the other, because there's loads of other teams, and so I think making it more known, but then even beyond making it just more known, I know that there's long waiting lists for some teams as well, and so making the capacity available. I would also say that it's not just making it within the organized sports area, it's making the other group activities, like the Outdoor Lads group, which does a bunch of kind of hiking or camping trips, things like that. I think I wish I had known about it sooner, because I would have joined it sooner, again, just focused on the social aspect. And so I think, raising the awareness for those who are interested in joining, and then also just making sure that there's space for those who want to join, because it's great that there is interest.
Yeah, and it sounds like there is quite a waiting list now to join something like the Spikers because it's gotten very, very popular. And I love that you highlight, there are non-sporting things that you can join as well. I think there's like a board game club that I tried as well. I don't get anything more complex than Uno, so it was not for me. But that's
And
because I'm very,
aggressive.
sorry?
And aggressive.
I was going to say, you're the alpha male at Uno, so
You're the one that I'm scared of in that sport.
I only
the
threw
hands,
one
like,
Jenga piece at you once, and now I'm bestowed with this reputation. But I like that you do highlight other things because you don't have to play a sport, essentially. Is there anything that you would be interested in, Kevin, like non-sporting wise, that you would explore?
I want to answer a bit of the last question first, because I think as a gay sport, it's helpful for us, but also I think if it's possible, expanded to the wider LGBT plus Q plus spectrum, because in some ways, if you try to make it inclusive, you brand yourself as an LGBT plus club, then I know you're dominated by the G, but it becomes a lot more. We need to do a bit more external messaging that it is inclusive, so that your B's, your T's, your Q's can feel comfortable about joining. Because if you look at the pictures, it just looks like gay men. It doesn't look very inviting for a club that's supposed to be inclusive. So that's one thing I would change. Outside of sports, what other things I would join? I don't know. I mean, Outdoor Lad sounds like it's sporty, but it's also quite more social than like as if you're competing for something. So I think that doing an activity together, something like that would be of interest to me. I wouldn't say I'll do anything like sewing or theatre sports or anything like that, but I think there's definitely markets for that for people that want to join that.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely want to learn how to hem my trousers, but maybe I'll find a different group of friends for that.
Not me.
I've so appreciated being able to have this kind of conversation because these conversations
actually never did. Actually, we never actually spoke about it, and we were usually drinking in the pub, but actually not talking about things that matter.
But I think growing up, this would have been such a revelationally type of conversation to listen to then think, oh, it does change. There are different opportunities, especially, Olivia, like you said, being in London, it can be really lonely, but there are lots of things going for you. And it's just stepping outside that comfort zone a little bit and trying something a little bit different. And coming to an end, I wonder if you could just summarize what your experience has been. I wonder if we can start with you, Olivier.
Yeah, I think it's been a life changer. I went there with the ambition to do some sports and potentially do some friends. And now I don't do the sport anymore, but I have the friends, and that it's not all that mattered. I still regret the sport, but it was worth the injuries. That's a nice compliment I'm making to you guys. That would be my experience.
What about you, JP?
Yeah, I think it went far beyond my expectations of what I set out to be. These people have seen me through, boyfriends, breakup, new boyfriend, new job, going for job interviews, not getting the job, getting a job, get promoted, like all those key life events, these people have been part of it. And I think it went far beyond my expectations of what I'm getting out of the club on a weekly basis. Playing volleyball is something that I actually love. The people that I've met and that I'm still meeting are incredible. We laugh all the time. We learn new skill, and we go on tournaments together. As I said, mini holidays. So it just really is an incredible experience that if I knew what I was getting myself into, I would have signed up about 5 years before, when my friend actually gave me the website link to sign up. But then again, I wouldn't join the same year as you guys. So all the stars aligned.
So glad you didn't.
Good.
So glad you didn't.
But yeah,
Well,
it's been incredible.
And I'm just glad I stuck around in the same team long enough to find you guys.
Exactly.
If you can just sum up your experience of playing in a sporting sort of league like that, what would you say, Eugene? Maybe if we can start with you.
I think it's been a really great experience that just so happened to be a gay team. And I just wish I would have found it sooner. I also wish that there was even a co-ed kickball team, because I just miss that. But yeah, it's been fun. And that, to be honest, like that was the most important thing joining. So yeah, it's been a really great experience. Wish I would have found it sooner. Don't plan on leaving anytime soon.
The treasurer will be very happy, I'm sure.
Yeah. The waiting list, not so much.
What about for you, Kevin?
Pretty much the same as Eugene. I think I got what I wanted out of it the most, which was to make more friends and be more sociable. There's been an actual extra benefit to actually learn a bit of volleyball skills, but that wasn't the primary goal. Yeah, I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah. But no, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate being able to have conversations like this, because I wasn't privy to these kinds of conversations growing up, and I think it would have made a huge difference.
Well, I'm glad for the invitation. Thank you for.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting us, Sylvie.
I'll probably see you this weekend anyway.
You will.
You will see us this weekend. You have no choice.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for your time. I've so enjoyed this kind of conversation. I really hope we can get together again and just keep having these conversations.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you, Sylvan. That was
Thanks so much.
pleasure.
It's been really great, and yeah, and amazing. It's really nice to talk about these things, and hopefully people will take it on for themselves, and yeah, and potentially consider doing something they haven't thought about.
I really wish I had listened to something like that earlier in my life. So yeah, target the young. And I'm gonna
Or the old. Or the old.
or the old.
Oh, exactly. Or the old. Exactly. It's never too late.
And I'm going to start a culture war as well.
Let's stop before we get Olivia cancelled. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sylvan. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.